This week, the all-female Powder Puff Flag football tournament kicks off with 30 teams all across the province. The future of the Letterman Football Club will be in the hands of a new female president, and despite the possibility of having two companies built on top of the graveyards, the region is working on building a memorial in honor of those graves that have been lost. Plus, the first LEGO League teams compete at the University of Waterloo to win a spot on Team Canada, where all competitors are within the ages of 9 to 14.
I'm hoping that the judges will be satisfied with our project.
I'm Kate Leahy.
And I'm Danielle St. Cyr.
And this is Spoke TV, your source for local weekly news produced by second-year journalism broadcast students from Conestoga College.
Unmarked graves have recently been discovered in the Kitchener-Waterloo region. Neither tombstones nor markers were permanently placed, and the city just started to build. Spoke TV's Sarah George explains the details of these hidden cemeteries.
Lost but not forgotten, at least not anymore. The remains of over 200 bodies from the county of Waterloo's House of Industry and Refuges graveyards lay under sidewalks, city streets, and even backyards. And now, the region of Waterloo and the city of Kitchener want to honor them with a memorial. Region Chair Ken Sealing says it's a good start to remembering those long gone.
Over the years, these cemeteries, I think, were sort of forgotten, and the lands are sold, and the graves were never marked permanently. And I think it's a good step to try and at least identify some of the areas and create some sort of memorial.
The House of Industry and Refuge opened in 1869. It housed the elderly, mentally challenged, and others who couldn't care for themselves, and was the first of its kind in Ontario. It was on the outskirts of then Berlin, on a vast area of farmland, now Frederick Street, making its burial grounds an ideal spot for the city to use when it pushed expansion after the First World War. Sealing suggests the fact that a facility like this even existed when it did shows the city cared and was ahead of its time.
I think it was an indication that this community at least saw a need to look after people, and however you might view how they looked after them, there was a place for them, and people could lodge people there, and that was done from the early years, from the 1860s on.
There are suggestions that two of the graves are near Weston's Bakery and the Polish Legion. Once they pinpoint exactly where they were, they'll have a better idea of where to put the memorial and whether it will be pictures or a bigger one of these.
If the memorial ends up going in a cemetery, Kitchener Mayor Barry Verbanovic thinks it could be a resting place for any remains that may be found.
So I think to be able to find a way to memorialize them, and in some cases, you know, in the future, if they are disinterred, a permanent resting place, it really gives them the dignity that everyone deserves at the tail end of their lives.
Verbanovic has been seeing more and more support from the community, and his staff is ready to work with anyone who wants to get in on the effort. For Spoke TV, I'm Sarah George.
Thanks, Sarah. The Waterloo Regional Police are hoping to make some changes to their budget this year. Spoke TV's Jay Clayfield speaks to the Chief of Police to find out the different ways that an increased budget can help.
Well, it's time again for budget proposals. A regional budget meeting was held recently, and Public Services prepared their proposals. The proposed change to the budget is $5 million, and the police feel it's necessary, but to the civilians? The Police Services Board went before Regional Council on February 11 for a proposed increase to their budget. The entirety of the proposed budget comes to a total of $145.6 million. The police, however, are taking every opportunity to shave down their budget and to cut costs. They have recently ceased civilian fingerprinting, and they've projected that they will save over $100,000 due to low oil prices. Chief of Police Brian Larkin tells us more about the economic pressures the police face.
Well, cost-saving measures are an important part. There's a lot of economic pressures on all public sectors, not just the police service, on all emergency service, on all public sector industries. We have to live within our times of reality. We have some fiscal responsibilities, and so every cost-driving piece is very important. So one of the big things that we did was really drill down.
The new police service budget was met with favorable responses by Regional Council, and they were applauded for their cost-saving measures. For Spoke TV, I'm Jay Clayfield.
AIDS awareness has been around since the 1980s. Some find methods of contraception a tough thing to talk about with their partners. Paula Sierra explains the importance of being open and honest in preventing sexually transmitted infections.
Sexually transmitted diseases are still a concern in the Waterloo region. According to the non-profit organization, the AIDS Committee of Cambridge, Kitchener, Waterloo and area, 70% of local chlamydia cases are among people aged 15 to 24. This raises the question, are young couples of the region not practicing safe sex? According to a past national survey, although 72% of the 1,500 college kids surveyed had engaged in intercourse during the past 2 years, just 51 said that they used a condom.
Sexual history might be a very awkward subject to talk about with your partner. So are couples avoiding this conversation, or are they sharing this information before getting intimate?
I'm just an honest person, so I'm open.
I don't think it should matter, really.
Yeah, I definitely do, because I believe that everyone should try and be safe.
According to Caroline Keyes, a spokesperson for the ACCKWA organization, which deals with AIDS and other sexually transmitted disease, it's very clear that citizens of the region are not choosing to be safe.
STIs like chlamydia and gonorrhea are higher in our region than other regions that are similar to ours, as well as unplanned pregnancies for much the same reasons. So we know that people are having condomless sex and that there is transmission of STIs and unplanned pregnancies happening.
Citizens of the region can get tested for free at the organization establishment in King Street.
After the break, we take a look at the pros and cons of homeschooling in the Waterloo region.
The Community Care Access Center has been on strike since late last month. Spoke TV's Joe Dyke has the reasons why wages are playing a big part.
Community care access workers across Ontario have been on strike since January 30th to voice their dissatisfaction with the current standings of their jobs. The workers lined up to increase the awareness of their unfavorable condition. CCAC is funded by the Ministry of Health to work for the community. Such duties include nursing, social work, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physiotherapy. Dale Clement, the CEO for the Waterloo and Wellington CCAC, gives the reason for the strike.
Part of our workforce is represented by the Ontario Nurses Association, and that group has been engaging in collective bargaining for a while in terms of trying to settle. They've been without a contract since March, and as of the end of January, they rejected the offer that had been presented, and the primary reason being wages.
Here at CCAC, the workers have been on strike for quite a while, and they're prepared to stick it out until their demands have been met.
For Spoke TV, I'm Joe Dyke.
If drinking an alcoholic beverage in a noisy bar isn't your ideal night, then Canadians will be pleased to know there will soon be a more relaxing option.
Starbucks is adding some new items to their menu in the coming future, and these items aren't for children. According to a CBC article, the world's largest coffee chain will be adding wine and beer to their Canadian menu. The pilot program called Starbucks Evenings will offer customers a menu of wine, beer, and small plate of hors d'oeuvres after 4 p.m. Some Starbucks in North America already have alcohol on their menu, however, none so far in Canada. No dates have been set for when this change will be happening.
It seems like Canada is eating up foreign retail companies and spitting them out, or maybe it's that Canadians are just too tough to please.
Since last year, some companies have had to pack up and leave Canada. A few include Mex Canada, a Dutch-based retailer, Smart Set, owned by Reitmans, Bombay, along with its sister companies, Target Canada. Then to add to the growing list is the Redbox. The movie rental kiosk sits outside grocery stores and entered Canada back in 2012. They have been heavily competing with online streaming. They announced that the demand did not meet their expectations. The kiosks will be turned off in March.
Mixed information is sometimes why there is such a big stigma behind homeschooling. About 60,000 children in Canada are homeschooled. Spoke TV's Jay Clayfield digs into the pros and cons of being taught at home.
Homeschooling. The word itself is almost taboo. For many people, it brings to mind images of zealous parents domineering their child's lives or under-socialized students with severe only child syndrome. These ideas are often untrue. Despite this, myths and misconceptions about home learning still abound. It should be mentioned that over 1,000 different post-secondary schools in North America have accepted homeschooled students, including MIT, the University of Waterloo, and Conestoga College. Even outside of stereotypes, there are some legitimate concerns one might have about homeschooling. Cambridge mother of 5 Crystal Wysick provides an example of a parent who decided against homeschooling after weighing their options.
As a parent, when it comes to homeschooling, I'd have I have some reservations about whether or not they'd be properly socialized in a home setting, or as well, you know, as a parent, you're not a qualified educator or teacher, so I'm not sure, you know, I personally wouldn't feel comfortable with it. And yeah, I think that a school setting has a lot to offer that a home might not.
Any parent or guardian can decide to homeschool their children. Most provinces request, but do not demand, the parent register. Those provinces, such as Ontario, make it as easy as filling out a form and visiting the local courthouse. This is a bone of contention for some conventional educators. Some traditional educators feel that children do not learn as well on their own, if at all, and that a home environment can't provide the same learning and social experiences for the student.
Well, in my opinion, no, they don't, because they don't get to hang around with different kinds of people, so when they show up to school, they don't know who to hang out with, what type of people to meet, all of those things.
Kara Nagel, an English as a second language teacher, explains these concerns and why she feels a general education classroom is the best place for a student.
As an ESL teacher, I daily see the value of a proper education, which I believe is in a general education classroom. When students are in a general education classroom, they get the benefit of interacting face-to-face with different teachers throughout the day. They also get the benefit of interacting with other students, which is crucial to academic life and also social life. Thus, general education is a lot better for a student than homeschooling them.
A common concern with home education is the possible lack of facilities, such as yard equipment or the vast library and computer systems conventional schools can afford. But do classes without classmates actually have a negative impact on one's social development?
From past experience, like what I found like from homeschool students is they're well organized and they're fairly social, like they're able to conduct themselves socially without no problem most of the time. And yeah, that's my opinion, my personal opinion.
Numerous organizations and services, such as community centers like the YWCA, churches, libraries, theaters, and more, offer programs for youth groups, sports, and activities. Additionally, the increasing popularity and acceptance of home education have resulted in a good number of homeschool networks rising up. These networks share information, materials, and techniques that have worked for them and often organize activities for their children to meet up with their peers. Homeschooling is subjective. For some people, conventional education works more effectively, and for others, a home learning environment is the best place for them. However you're educated, what matters most is how well it works for you. For Spoke TV, I'm Jay Clayfield.
Coming up next, an all-women's flag football tournament comes to Wilfrid Laurier with some big news. You may not want to step on one, but playing with Lego is definitely fun. Every year, about 19 million Lego pieces are produced. Nora Mazzaros shows us how local kids recently found new ways to use them and expand their minds at the same time.
After 8 weeks of programming Lego robots, Ontario's top 40 first Lego League teams faced off for a chance to earn a spot on Team Canada. First Lego League is an international organization consisting of 20,000 teams across 80 countries. Winners here today at the University of Waterloo have their chance to advance to the World Championship that can take them as far as Arkansas, California, and even Australia. And the competitors are all between the ages of 9 and 14. The competition has 3 stages: a presentation, a research project, and a robotics demonstration.
The theme this year happens to be about learning and education, so the kids were tasked with the idea of think about something that you want to teach someone and how could you teach it more effectively than it's already being taught. And so they have to find out what's going on in the field in the topic that they wanted to solve and then come up with an innovative solution from there.
The teams are assigned challenges 2 months prior to competing.
The challenges vary from year to year, but basically the robot works completely autonomously, so they have to program it from start to finish. Every team builds a robot to do the challenge. They all look different, but they all perform in different ways, and it allows students to be very creative in terms of what they design.
This year's competition included junior teams whose Lego displays focused on continuous movement with the use of pulleys and gears.
I'm hoping that the judges will be satisfied with our project and maybe give us a few awards.
For Spoke TV, I'm Nora Mazeros.
Thanks, Nora. And now, with sports and entertainment, here's Katerina Costa.
Thanks, Kate. With just over a handful of buildings and more than $20 million in mortgages, this TV personality and business tycoon is supporting Waterloo's business growth. He even made a company in 2014, which has grown since. The Waterloo Innovation Network, owned by a dragon from Dragon's Den, Michael Weckerly, now owns 6 former BlackBerry buildings in Waterloo. The company has spent almost $50 million in the last year on the building. 156 Columbia Street was bought by the company about a year ago and is now fully leased. 70, 176, and 180 Columbia Street are among some of the BlackBerry buildings the company has bought. The Waterloo Innovation Network was created by Weckerly to support business startups within the region. You may think the Powerpuff Girls kick butt, but so do the Powder Puff Girls at Wilfrid Laurier University. Reporter Jeff Pickle brings us more from the intense outdoor flag football tournament.
They run, they pass, they occasionally roll in the snow, and they play Powder Puff football. Last week, the Letterman Club at Wilfrid Laurier University held its annual Powder Puff flag football tournament. Powder Puff football is all-female flag football played in the snow. Laurier University hosts the largest annual tournament in Ontario with 30 teams from 10 different universities all across the province.
Not in my kitchen. Powder Puff offers a great opportunity for girls to get outside in the winter, have some fun in the snow, playing in a competitive atmosphere. From the girls I talked to, there is a lot more contact and intensity than one might think.
The rules strictly prohibit tackling, but don't try to tell these girls it's not a contact sport.
I love the contact, actually. It's fun. A lot of contact.
Definitely. The bruises show that.
And exciting news for next year. The tournament is already played entirely by women, so it makes sense the tournament will be run by a woman. Next year, Tamika Marks Grant will be the first ever female president of the traditionally all-male Letterman Club. For Tamika, it is an exciting challenge.
Because first of all, I'll be the first girl doing it, so I might have more stuff to offer because I could give the girls' point of view. So this year we're selling sweatpants, stuff like that, appeals to the girls more.
The tournament raised $15,000, an improvement of $5,000 from last year's tournament. For Spoke TV, I'm Jeff Pickle.
After the break, one of our reporters travels to Woodstock and visits the Navy Vets. Canadians are funny people, and if you agree, having a laugh in the Waterloo region is easy and cost-effective. Spoke TV's Chris Alexander takes us inside the comedy group that brings you performances like this.
Has anybody been to this show before here? Crooked Sword? All right, people in the back, people in the front, welcome.
They say laughter is the best medicine, but sometimes it can be hard to find a place to get your daily dose. That's where Crooked Sword comedy comes in. Sohail Chatur, an economics student at Wilfrid Laurier University, started the weekly comedy show back in July when Yuck Yuck's Kitchener closed for renovations. He spoke on the importance of having both amateur and professional comedians come out to perform at the club.
It's always nice to have different people roll through, so I always try to get a couple of local comics on the show every week and then book some people from out of town. So we usually have a few comics from Toronto, and then a few from the area, and then sometimes we do people from Hamilton, St. Catharines, London.
Crooked Sword is a free event hosted every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. at the Churchill Arms on Herb Street in Waterloo. Between having pros, amateurs, and people who have never tried comedy before, they also have a weekly host. Hannah Hogan, comedian and actor on CTV's Meet the Family, and this week's host, shared her thoughts on the Canadian stand-up scene.
Canadians are really funny, and I think you're going to see in the next 10 years, I know that I'm going to see people that I've come up with do a lot of really amazing things.
Crooked Sword can also help you with your fundraiser. Whether it's a comedian, a location, or a poster, Crooked Sword has a number of clients to help you make your event a success.
I recently quit smoking. Thank you. It's only been 20 minutes, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to make it this time.
For Spoke TV, I'm Chris Alexander.
A love for community and hockey so strong that these three took action. Spoke TV's Jeff Pickle takes you on the journey of the Woodstock Navy Vets over the last 2 years.
To many Canadians, hockey is more than just a game. To these three young men, hockey provided the ability to utilize their friendship and give something back to their community. The story begins over 2 decades.
I knew Trevor since probably we've been in kindergarten, grade 1, whatever. So we went to school, we went to the same public school together. So I've known him since we were 5 years old. And Stuart, I kind of met up when I was later on playing hockey. I actually made the rep team, I think for the first time when I was 11 or 12.
When a unique opportunity gave the lifelong friends a chance to buy the Junior C Hockey Club in their hometown of Woodstock, Ontario, the guys jumped at the opportunity. For these 3 and the 6 others in the ownership group, the decision to purchase the Woodstock Navy Vets was driven by a passion for the community.
I think Woodstock is the main reason I'm involved. If it wasn't Woodstock, I'd really have to consider it. Being in Woodstock, no brainer for me.
A passion for the community, but a large part of their motivation was because of what the guys saw as an opportunity lost.
We used to come to games where this red pad would be sold out, 22 to 2,500 people, and it was the best atmosphere in all of junior hockey at that point.
And we had so many good teams and guys that played Junior B and different Junior C teams and went down to Junior D, that our team could have been great. We could have been those kids playing in front of 500 fans, but we weren't. We were playing in front of smaller centers with like 100 fans.
For most of the last decade, the Navy Vets have been mired in mediocrity. For Greg Colgan of the Woodstock Sentinel Review, it was very apparent that management issues were hurting the team.
For the year that I was here before the current ownership took over, it was best described as a gong show. People were quitting left and right, and it really looked like the team was going to fold at that point.
Problems with the franchise led to the vast majority of talented young hockey players to leave Woodstock for the greener pastures with other local junior teams. Retaking a grasp on the talent in Woodstock has been a major priority.
We had good hockey players that never ended up playing for the Navy Vets. So many people left the city, and our goal is to bring everyone from Woodstock back to Woodstock. It's taken a while, but now it's happening.
Despite renewed energy from ownership, the team initially failed to deliver. Last season, they were a league worst 5-35, finishing dead last and missing the playoffs.
There's a lot of people that, like these guys said, why would we jump on that sinking ship? Like, it's, here we go again.
And I think they just thought, it doesn't matter. Like, there's no point. Here it is, someone else is going to try it.
And we sit up top after the games doing just about what can we do better. We all knew that if we just stuck, if we made a game plan, and we all believed in the game plan, if we just stuck to that, at some point in time, things are going to start to look up.
And things did get better. The team improved this season by earning 16 more wins than the previous year and moved from dead last into 4th place. The long-term plan for the Navy Vets is for success both on and off the ice.
On to the championship. I think that's something that we were passionate about when we played, and that's something that we're carrying over now as we're managing this team, is that we want to win. It's all about winning at this stage. Like, there's nobody remembers who finished 2nd place in Junior C hockey for Midwest Division. Like, it's win or go home.
Clearly winning, no question. Championships, like, if you're not able to win it, I don't know what's the point of playing the sport, to be honest. But I mean, off ice, just community involvement, stability. People look up at the Navy Vets and see a class organization.
But more than anything, the new owners want to give the city of Woodstock a team to cheer for and reclaim their place as a proud hockey town.
That's all we have for you this week. For Spoke TV from Conestoga College, I'm Kate Leahy.
And I'm Danielle St. Cyr. For more news and information, visit spoketv.ca.